Hey everybody, here we are, week 16. We're covering 3 steps today. 3 steps. Steps 6, 7, and 8. Eric does a phenomenal job breaking these down as usual. Next week, week 17. It goes pretty quick from here on out, so strap in, make sure you take your notes, and we'll see you next week for week 17.
All right, what's going on, guys? We're back again. Let's open this up and ground ourselves with a moment of silence, followed by a serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's how we open things up. So today we're going to start. Last week we did step 5, or we explained step 5. We didn't do it, but we read it in the big book and talked a little bit about how it's done. And so we're going to start on, I lost my place here already. I haven't even started. We're going to start on page, I'm losing my place here, guys. I'm going to start on page 76. Thank you, Bridget. So on page 75, we went through the 1 hour review of step 4 and step 5, and in that 1 hour we go home for an hour we review the work that we've already done. Where have we tried to make mortar without sand? It says, have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? And so we're building that foundation. At this point, I think I told you this last week, is usually when I will shake my sponsee's hand and say, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous, because he started to really do some work here. So we made the self-appraisal. We did step 4. We told it to another man, and I'm going to go back here a minute and just point out the brilliance of this program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because this alcohol and why it works as a design for life, if we look at it, it is prepare and execute. We start off with step 2. We come to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Step 3, we're going to make a decision to let it, right? Step 4, we make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we tell it to somebody. Step 6, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, we're going to humbly ask him to. Step 8, we make a list of all the people we've harmed. Step 9, we go out and we make amends to them. It's prepare, execute, prepare, execute, prepare, execute, prepare, execute. The way that most normal people, I think, do most of the things in their lives. Not this alcoholic, not me. I'll execute the hell out of a plan with very little preparation for it, and I was like that all my life, right? But this step 6, it actually tells us that this is a preparation step. The other ones don't actually tell us this, but step 6 is an actual preparation step. And back to where I was. So keep losing my. So it tells us it's an actual step, a preparation step. We are going to become entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. And again, he uses the word defects, he uses the word wrongs, he uses the word shortcomings. But here he's using the word defect. They all mean the same thing. They're the things that block us off from God and the things that keep us in conflict with the world around us. So if we can answer to our satisfaction that we've done the work properly up to this point, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable, and indispensable means absolutely necessary. I have to be absolutely necessary to change. We're willing to change. It's absolutely necessary that I'm willing to change, that I'm willing to do this work, and that I'm willing to let God change me. And that's difficult because it's easier to sit in the darkness that I know than live in a light that I don't know. That's scary. Change is always scary. I have written here, we would rather sit in today's pain and suffering than because we're afraid to change. And that's the case. I sat in the pain and suffering for years because I was afraid of the change. So here we become ready, and it says us, it's almost, the preparation step, it's almost like it's asking us, like it's trying to talk us out of it. Are you sure you're ready to do this? Because in step 7, I'm going to ask God to affect that change. And I don't know what I'm going to be like after that. And to me, I didn't realize it at the time what an important step this is, because I have to be ready, because I am going to change. And I have to be ready for that. And the reason I have to be ready is because for better or for worse, I know how to be this guy. This is the guy that I made myself into all my life. This is the man that kept me safe. Now you're telling me I can't be that man anymore. I have to change. So I can't drink and drug and use these other substances to fill that void, because I can't live in my own skin, and I'm not comfortable. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent, so I make myself into this person. I build up these defects of character because I feel that they keep me safe, and I know how to be that guy. Like I said, for better or for worse, and now you're telling me I can't be that guy. So I can't drink and drug, but I also can't be that guy, and that was terrifying to me. But that's what I have to do. I have to ask God. I have to be ready to ask God to change me. So willingness is indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? And those things that we've admitted are objectionable are our character defects, our wrongs, our shortcomings. Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We will not let go. We ask God to help us to be willing. So you'll see throughout this book, it's going to tell us, and throughout these steps, if we're not willing to do this, we ask God to make us willing. We pray to God to make us willing. And then we ask God to help us to be willing. When ready, and we have to ask God because self can't overcome self. I've been living my life in this selfishness with these characters, just 100% concerned about me all the time. And of my own, I can't overcome myself. I need to ask God to do this. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have completed, when we have then completed step 7. So that was step 7. Simply, we were ready, and then we asked him through that prayer. Now, a lot of people will point out that this prayer has an amen at the end of it. And when we did the 3rd step prayer, that didn't have an amen. So they'll point out that this is the second half of that prayer. I don't know if it was intended to be that way. I'm not in the head of Bill W., but I can tell you it makes sense to me, and whether it was meant to be that way, intended to be that way, it makes for a pretty good prayer when I put those two together. It goes like this. It says, God, I offer myself to you today to build with me and do with me as you will. Relieve me of my bondage of self that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties so that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. And then it goes on, it says, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. So that's a complete prayer to me of asking God of knowing my purpose and asking God to relieve me of these defects and relieve me of the bondage of self and show me what to do and where to go. And I put those two together every day. That's my prayer in the morning. And I love those two together. So that's step 7. We just completed step 7. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which is accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Once again, we just did the same thing before. If we don't have the will to do it, we ask God to make us. Said if we're not ready, we ask God to make us ready. Here it's saying if we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed in the beginning when we started this. It was agreed that we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol, and now we're about to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. This was the step, 8 and 9, the steps that I was concerned with when I came in here and looked at this program. I'm like, I don't want to. You mean I've got to go make amends to people? This is where the metal meets the meat right here. Probably there are still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. And diffident means shy, embarrassed because I lack self-confidence in this area. It doesn't mean like we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it because I lack self-confidence in this area. I'm new on this spiritual journey, and now I'm supposed to go to these people on a spiritual basis. And I'm shy about that. I don't want to do that, right? I'm not confident about that yet. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives together in order. But this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So at this moment, it says we are trying to put our lives in order, and that's what we're doing. At this moment, I come into rehab, I come into AA, and at this moment, I want to put my life back together. That's what I'm doing. I want whatever that takes. I agreed to do whatever it took but the end goal is not to drink and put my life back together. But now it's telling me that after working this program, that my real purpose is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's the trade-off. Nothing comes free. That's the trade-off. God, relieve me of this. Take me out of this darkness. Show me how to live my life. But in turn for that, he's going to show me my purpose. And I have to be willing to do this. I have to be willing to make myself of maximum service to God and the people about me. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts, which just means still hurts from our injustice to him, and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with a chin. We lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores. We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. And I see people do this a lot in working in the field of recovery. They get sober and they're sending memes or they're sending messages back to whoever it is they have at home, mom, dad, grandma, or whatever, about their spirituality after they've been, a month in rehab. And they're talking to grandma or their parents about how they need to get their type of spirituality and what spirituality is and isn't. And they're talking to people who are very involved in their church sometimes. And that person's just thinking, hey, you owe me money. I don't care about your spirituality that you're trying to preach to me. You did this for 10 years and you stole from me and you robbed from me and you behaved this way. And now you're coming to me leading with you've got God and everything's okay. No, your actions are what I want to see. And that's basically why they won't believe that. So we don't want to lead with the chin when we do this. We don't want to, we want to be honest about what we're doing here. But our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. So we're not embarrassed to talk about God, but we use common sense when approaching people with why we're doing this and how we're doing this. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. And maybe he has done us more harm than we have done him. And though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It's harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill, feeling and expressing our regret. And listen, I've had to make amends to people that I feel wronged me more than I wronged them, but that's not my business. I'm cleaning up my side of the street. That's what I'm doing. I'm cleaning up my side of the street. And then I can walk away from that and say I did my part. I can't change them. This whole idea of change, this journey we're on to change, it's changing me. If I have to change you, I'm screwed. If my sobriety relies on me changing the people around me, I'll never stay sober, because it'll never happen. It's about changing me and my attitudes. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part. It's water over the dam. And that's it. Look, somebody doesn't have to accept my amends, but I have to give it. I have to give it. And 9 times out of 10, I'd agree with this. It does go well. Sometimes it doesn't, and I have to be prepared for that. And that's why this is step 9 and not step 1 or step 2, because there's no way I could handle that in the beginning. I don't even know what I'm making an amends for either. But by the time I get to this, I've swallowed that huge chunk of truth about myself in 4 and 5. I'm starting to see myself the way the world sees me. There's going to be depth and weight in these amends. And that's what it is. Most alcoholics owe money. So here we're going to talk about equal restitution. And it's true, most alcoholics owe money. So when you do your amends, bring your checkbook. People still use checkbooks? I don't know. But it's a phrase. We do not dodge our creditors, telling them what we are trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Now remember, this is written in 1939, before the huge corporations and corporate credit cards and that type of debt. These were usually, it was a different type of debt that back then, but it still applies. This still applies. I still pay my debts today. And when we're talking about this financial creditor, whether that paying that debt, whatever that looks like, if it looks like a legal negotiation to take down the debt, whatever, we do it within the bounds of the law, and we make that creditor whole on their terms, right? So we don't just shy from it. I don't just bury my head in the sand and not pay my credit card bills and ignore that. If I have to go to court, I go to court, but we set this stuff right. If I owe the IRS money, well, then I make terms with the IRS to pay them back. This is how I have to live today. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Again, don't expect that with the big credit card companies. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. So we arrange the best deal we can, but we pay it. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go. For we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. And isn't that the truth? How many of us are, afraid with every time the phone rings, terrified? It's another one of them. I have to fix that stuff. I can't live in fear of that anymore. Because if I do, I know the thought that's going to come back into my mind one of these days I know what'll make me feel better. I know what'll take all this away. The drink will. And I'll pick up a drink over it. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, our sponsor when we did step 5, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried but haven't kept up the alimony to number one. She is indigent about it and has a warrant out for or indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. So these reparations, they come in all different, there's all different ways to do them, and they don't all look the same. But here's some principles that we find can guide us in it. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we would be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. So a couple things in this one short little half a paragraph. Right here's the third time in this that we're asking God for the strength to do this. Third time that just in this short 20 minutes we've been doing this, that we're turning to God and asking God for the strength to do this. Remember, we've come to a point in our recovery where we are relying on finite, infinite God and not finite man. So we ask God for the strength to do this. And reminding ourselves that we've gone to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. We just mentioned that 2 pages earlier. Reminding ourselves that we decided to go to any lengths for sobriety. Well, sobriety means the spiritual experience. And then it says, we ask that we be given the strength and direction to do the right thing no matter what the personal consequences may be. We're asking God for integrity. That's the very definition of integrity to me. People say all the time integrity is to do the right thing no matter who's looking. And yes, that's definitely you can definitely say that's a definition of integrity, but I think it goes a little deeper than that. I love this definition of it right here. Integrity, to do the right thing no matter the personal cost. It sometimes comes at a high personal cost. Do it anyways. This means to do the right thing even if it means losing the girl. Do the right thing even if it means losing the job. Do the right thing even if it means losing the money. And you do the right thing no matter the personal cost, and then it doesn't matter who's looking, right? That's integrity. So we have to be willing. We must not shrink at anything. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be a hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. So we have to, right here, to save myself from the alcoholic pit. So remember, there's a difference between a purpose and a reason. The purpose of these 12 steps is to affect a spiritual experience significant enough to bring about a complete psychic change, but that's not the reason why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm an alcoholic and I can't drink anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. It's killing me. I don't ever want to pick up a drink again in my life or I'm going to die from it. That's why I'm doing it. And it says right here, we would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. So it's reminding us right here why we are doing these 12 steps. A man we know had remarried because of resentment and drinking. He had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, had secured a position, and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary, but if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. We suggested he write his first wife admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course, she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, ask God to help. Again, ask God to help. And the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. So we go to the other person if we're worried about that this might hurt them. We go to them and we ask their permission and we ask God. This brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? So he has no right to hurt these other people, to save himself from the alcoholic despair and the alcoholic pit. After consulting with his wife, so he goes to the person he thinks he might hurt by doing this and talks to her, and the partner he goes to the other person he thinks he might hurt by doing this and tells them, hey, this is what I need to do. He came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. So that's one side. They determined that, no, it's better that you do this than not. But maybe there might be a reason why they say, no, you can't make this amends. And we need to weigh all that in, and that's where we need to talk to our sponsor about it. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands or he would soon start drinking again and all would be lost anyhow. So there again, it goes and reminds us why we're doing this. Because he might start drinking again. That's why we're making these amends. Yes, the result of them is a spiritual experience and to be able to live our lives closer to God. But that's not why we're doing them. We're doing them because we don't want to die of alcoholism. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His action met widespread approval, and today he is one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. And here it always refers to the wife, but today it's it's a multitude of people. It's whoever lives with us. The traditional family that we get into here doesn't exist so much today as it did back then. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor. Perhaps he is having a secret and exciting affair with the girl who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what are we going to do about a thing like that? A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. So, right here, Bill W.'s describing what he sees back then. A lot of people will say this is justifying that behavior because there's a lot of that in here. Maybe the guy's just a bad guy. Maybe a lot of people that are non-alcoholics do the same stuff, right? So we have to understand that this is a different time that we live in today than back then. But the whole fact that maybe he's looking for someone who's more understanding, this and that. Maybe he's just maybe he's just cheating on his wife because he's selfish and he's an adulterer. Maybe that's the reason. Either way, whatever the reason, whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, that's what they're calling it, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. Normally, something like that, an infidelity, they want to know everything. Who was she? What does she look like? Is she pretty? All this stuff. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what we have done, and God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go any further. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this is the best course to take. So let's look at this example for a minute. So here's a guy that he goes to his wife and says that he's been unfaithful to her, cheated on her, and she comes back and his endeavor here is, he doesn't want to lose his marriage. He's trying to set things right the best he can. But he has no right, she wants to know who it is and where is she and all the particulars. And she insists on this, and he says, but we feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We're going to anger her even more by saying that, probably. No, we're not. No, I'm admitting a wrong, but no, I'm not going to give you that information because I don't want to hurt her. Man, that's a hard pill for a wife or anybody to swallow, right? If they've just found out that their partner was unfaithful to them, but they won't tell them who. I don't know. That's not an easy thing to do, is it? But we say we are sorry for what we've done, and God willing, it shall not be repeated. So this means you might lose that person. You're going to make them more, even angrier. But what did we just talk about with integrity? We do the right thing no matter the personal cost. This one right here might come at a high personal cost. Might never be able to reconcile that. You have no right to involve that other person just to save yourself from your problem, from your alcoholic pit, and again, get back with your wife. We have no right to involve that other person. And I just find, I love that they explain it this way. So our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. Let me see how much further I want to go here. All right, we're going to stop right here for today because we're getting to that a little bit past the 30-minute mark. And we'll pick up with the rest of it next week. That's what I got, Tom. Let's open it up.